Welcome to this month's Reach Your World. Thank you, Tandem Family, for praying for us. Very excited to introduce to you Lynette Webb, who gives leadership with her husband with Love Your Neighbour. They've also planted a church called 126 in Point Chev in Auckland. So, Lynette, wonderful to have you with us this month.
Thank you.
This month's focus is fruitfulness. So, just over the last year or two, I know your ministry has been very fruitful. Do you want to just tell us some stories of God's provision?
Sure. So when we think about fruitfulness, we think about two aspects, and we've seen growth in both. So seeing people grow in their own Christ-likeness and character and walk with God, and then seeing increasing numbers of people coming to faith and joining the church family are two aspects of fruitfulness that we'd like to see, and we think we have seen to some extent. So in the 126 context, our church plant, we've seen individuals growing in their love for each other, in their desire to reach out and invite others to come and to be part of the church family and to experience God for themselves as they hear the gospel. Amy is a young mum who's joined our church family recently. She's come from a background of communist China and Buddhism, and she and her husband, through a series of 3 different people, have come along by being invited, and they've joined in the family, felt the love and the warmth of the congregation, accepting them and including them, even though her English is just emerging. And she has decided that she wants to take the step of faith to be baptized, and she's going to be baptized this Sunday and join this church family, leaving behind the lifestyle she knew and embracing God for herself. So that's very exciting to see, and the many people in that chain that brings Amy to us and to conversion and faith in Christ.
That's wonderful. Lynette, what changed? What did you learn to become more fruitful from, not that things weren't working before, but what did you learn that you actually had to change?
I think one of the most important things is that this is doable by anyone, and we've not lowered the bar but made it simpler, shall we say, for everyone to go, I can own a part of this, I can invite people to be at the table with me, to feel God's love, to hear the message being clearly proclaimed, to understand what this is about, and to know love and forgiveness and being part of a real family. So evangelism can be made a very difficult thing to do. You can be made to memorize long presentations, but I think just the art and the practice of saying, come and sit with me, together we can talk about the things that matter, we can listen to the sermon, we can talk about it, that church slot on a Sunday can itself be a slot for evangelism and inclusion, and it's easy and it's doable by anyone.
It sounds fun just talking to you. What are some examples of churches that you've worked with, and what are the tips that you've passed on to those churches?
So we've had the privilege of speaking with quite a few churches who've gone through the Redemptive Family series. They've done the 5 weeks of devotions and sermons, and when we come to have the church-wide conversation with them, what we used to call a workshop, but it's more aptly named a conversation, we give everyone a chance to bring their wisdom to that conversation about how the church is going to find its way forward, and embark on a couple of experiments to put Redemptive Family into practice in their context, to be a family on a place and mission together. And we've seen, I'm thinking of one particular young emerging church that took up this challenge and created a couple of experiments they'd like to try, and they've launched out and done them, an initial prototype of each, and they've had heaps of friends come and decided, yes, this is really working, let's entrench this as part of our regular program. We can see how God can help us bridge the gap to our community. And then another example would be an older church that was a merger of 2 congregations, and there was a lot of awkwardness in that merger about who's the primary church, who's the secondary church, do I really belong? When we were able to facilitate that workshop after the 5 weeks of devotions and sermons, it's like they found each other. One of the older women said, this has been transformative. Our church is never going to be the same again. It's been absolutely brilliant, and now we know each other and we know what we want to do together. And then a younger member of the church said, we started this thing called Welcome to Our Table this previous Sunday, absolute buzz. We had lots of newcomers, a small, short sermon, should I say, and then lots of table discussion, a buzz with lunch included, and we're going to do it again. And we really feel like we've lowered the bar and made it easier for people to come in and hear the gospel and find out that belonging to the family is a wonderful thing.
That's fantastic. Now, your husband Howard has written a book, and there's also a devotional series, I think. Can you tell us about those resources?
Right. So Redemptive Family, Howard's big book, is out there available for sale. It's been wonderful to have that as a main piece that explains our thinking behind Redemptive Family and what it means to be a family in a place on a mission together. And we've seen wonderful sales of that, and different denominations around the country taking hold of it, sharing it with their leadership. And it's been a good way to speak to places that we've not been able to go to yet. Accompanying that is the workbook, which has 5 weeks of devotions that individuals go through. But when a church is on the Redemptive Family journey, we ask that they take those workbooks and in small groups get together each week and discuss those devotions and the small group questions that go with it. Then through the 5-week process, the church submits surveys and we collate those. And at the end, when we have a church-wide conversation, we've got the thinking of everyone and their response to this material, and then they're ready to formulate a way forward for their church and see how are they going to make this practical, what are their next steps.
That sounds fantastic. So all those links are in this month's newsletter. Encourage your church, you're part of a church, invite your leadership to contact the Love Your Neighbour team, Bruce, Howard and Lynette. Enjoy this month's newsletter.